we good to go?
I'm giving it a second to start up.
Okay.
And they can't hear us right now, right?
Actually, they might now.
Okay.
We should be live.
Hello, everyone. Are we good to go? All right. Welcome, everybody, to this
I was
session.
going to run the.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I was going to run the video, but
Okay, good.
sorry about that.
Code? No.
Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Tammy Dorr, President and CEO of the Downtown Denver Partnership and co-chair of Denver Startup Week. This year marks the 10-year anniversary of Denver Startup Week. DSW has been the catalyst for lots of change over the past decade. And this week, we're coming together to celebrate the past and dream big for the future. We are able to bring Denver Startup Week to this community thanks to our 2021 sponsors. Thank you to our HQ and title sponsor, Amazon, and our title sponsors whose leadership makes this week come to life. Capital One Cafe, Downtown Denver Partnership, Fluid Truck, Hotel Engine, and WeWork. And our track sponsors who have made all of the great content you're hearing today possible, our founder track sponsor, Kickstart, growth track sponsor, Friday Health Plans, developer track sponsor, Quizlet, product track sponsor, Palantir, our designer track sponsor, Battery 621, and the Public Works, people track sponsor, Exactly, and spotlight event sponsor, Strat Labs. Our headline event sponsors are bringing the excitement to the week. Thank you to B-Side Fund, Colorado Public Radio, Comcast, Coors Brewing, Denver Pavilions, Entrepreneurship at the University of Denver, JP Morgan Chase, Method, Moss Adams, Pi Insurance, Promontory Mortgage, Path, Southwest, Tattered Cover, and VF Venture Foundry. Finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors, all listed on the screen. Please say thank you to these companies as you enjoy our hybrid Denver Startup Week. And don't forget, use the hashtag DenStartupWeek to share your experiences and moments of inspiration on social media. Have a great week.
Hello, I'm Sal Gentili, CEO of Friday Health Plans, and we're proud to sponsor the growth track this year at Denver Startup Week. We're a company that just entered a rapid growth phase, so we felt it was particularly appropriate. When my business partner and I started Friday Health Plans 5 years ago, we knew we wanted to create a company that catered to people who bought their own health insurance. The Affordable Care Act was just getting going, and we saw an opportunity to serve a brand new market of health insurance consumers. Independent consultants, startup groups, gig workers, service industry workers, designers, creators, and other independent professionals, like many of you here today. We knew that if we built a health plan that was simple to buy, easy to use, had great customer service, and most of all was affordable, we could compete against the big insurance plans who only focus on serving big companies. After spending 5 years getting into the Colorado market and completing a successful proof of concept, we successfully closed a $50 million round of growth funding earlier this year. We're now about to expand to 3 additional states later this year, hire more than 400 employees to support our growth, and eventually be in more than 10 states by 2025. I wish each of you good luck in your startup and growth pursuits. And as you think about your upcoming health insurance needs, I hope you consider fellow growing startup Friday Health Plans. Open enrollment starts November 1st. Check us out at fridayhealthplans.com.
Hello everyone, welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Jake Cohen, the Growth Track Chair and member of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee. Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of Denver Startup Week. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow. regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, or sexual orientation. A special thank you to our sponsors for their support in helping us to keep Denver Startup Week free and accessible for all. Thank you for joining us and have a great week.
Okay. Hello, welcome everybody. It's this session of branding, sales, jet fuel. Couple quick things before we get started. Glad you're all here. First, we want to say we consider this not just a presentation, but really a discussion panel. So we encourage your questions at any time. Just we make sure you put them there in the question and answer section. That's probably where we'll be looking for them. Secondly, we'll be offering a free copy of our Genius Simple Branding book. At the end, we'll put up a link. So just click that and we'll be sure to get one out to you. Now I'd like to introduce our panel here. We have, first we have Andy and Cody from Orbit Design. Orbit is a 40-year-old branding and marketing firm that helps small and medium-sized businesses build genius simple brands that drive sales. We also have Sarah and Ashley from Lunara with their wellness pillow, who are helping people level up their wellness through healthy restorative sleep. Orbit work with Lunara to develop their brand, and we're excited to have them to be here to tell a little bit about what that process looks like. And we also want to mention that there are finalists in the Denver Startup Week pitch competition. So we're excited about that, yay. And so be sure to check that out. And now I will turn it over to Cody.
Thanks a lot, John. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to Branding Sales Jet Fuel. We're going to get started right now, and feel free to type any questions into the Q&A. John will be our moderator today, and so he'll be passing those along as they come in. So the first thing we start off with for Sales Jet Fuel is that Orbit, we believe in genius simple branding. So what that means is that anyone can really build a complicated brand with a 150-page brand guide, but it really takes a genius to be able to take everything that you do and all the nuances of your brand and all the different components and distill them down into something truly simple that resonates with customers and drives sales. So that's why we call it Genius Simple. Our simple equation here is that sales equals branding plus outreach. We have a lot of clients who come to us and are great at outreach, are doing all kinds of things, but they just have no brand to guide their focus. Or there are people who come in that really know their brand well, but they're just not doing the legwork to get it out there. So it's really important to have both pieces of the equation if you really want your sales to take off. So today we're going to do things a little differently. There are a lot of great presentations out there on branding, but every brand presentation I've ever seen is always trying to sell the point that brands are incredibly strategically important. They're one of the most valuable assets you have, et cetera. And, you know, we get that point. It's a great point. But I'm always left needing a little bit more, because you get all excited about branding and then it's kind of over. So you're just sitting there with all this creative energy, but nothing to do. That's why today we're going to leave all that out. We're going to start out assuming that brands are important and valuable so that we can show you how to build a brand from the ground up with examples and the basic steps that you'll need in order to build them. We want you to see these concepts from both sides, both from us as the branders, but most importantly from Lunara, who's the brand owners. So we'll take these concepts from both sides and we'll give you plenty of time for questions and back and forth. We want this session to be as interactive as possible. So everything starts with the brand map, and the brand map is what you see in front of you right now. We break it down into 4 quadrants, the quadrants that you see there, and it all starts with the crowd. So this is your crowd. There are 3 steps that we want to highlight with the crowd, because crowd is one of the most important items in building a brand. If you really understand your crowd, it makes the whole branding process incredibly easy. So the first thing we do is identify low-hanging fruit and whales. The idea here is to really be narrowing down your crowd. Everyone comes in and they're trying to be everything to everybody, but you need to prioritize the easy sales and the ones you're going to make you the most money. So that's your low-hanging fruit and your whales. The next thing that we do is we take that idea of narrowing your crowd all the way down to an individual person, and we call that your brand proxy. So a lot of the best brands use a proxy to shortcut the entire branding process. Having a proxy allows you to get outside of your own head and think more like your customers. Your proxy should be basically like your friend, and every decision you make, you should be asking yourself, what would my proxy think of this? Would this help them out? Would they buy it? The next thing that we do is we take your proxy and determine the wants and thorns for them. So what are the specific pain points they're trying to fix? But more importantly, how do they want them to be fixed? A lot of times you can address all the thorns and solve all their pain points. But if you don't make it something they want, it really doesn't matter. So now we're going to pass it to Lunara, who's going to talk you through a little bit about their brand proxy.
Hi, we're so excited to be here today. We love Orbit Genius Simple Branding and are really honored to be part of this. So this was an interesting process because initially, when we were doing our branding process, we were just making a lot of sort of educated guesses from the research we had done through the business librarians, as we were creating our product and we were not yet in the market. What we thought that would be sort of purchase motivators for our customers. And we started there, right? And I think it was what more can you do than that in that moment, right? Other than make an educated guess. Some of the things that we thought it would be people with some kind of higher level discretionary spending capabilities, because it's a little bit higher price point than just your average, like My Pillow, for example. So we thought they would be people who shopped at Whole Foods, who cared a lot about the environment and clean products and things like that. So that's where we started, because also we are a sort of medically pain solution focused product. And one of our primary affiliate relationships is with wellness centers, chiropractic centers, massage therapists. So you get the idea. The interesting thing that we've been talking about is that when we went into the market, we started selling, we then checked in. And this is, I think, really an ongoing process, figuring out your proxy, because we took time to survey our existing customers and find out what really got them there. And what we found out above all else was neck pain, that people were trying to solve for neck pain. It didn't matter really what their kind of overall income level was. They weren't necessarily people who shopped for pure, clean, environmentally sustainable products. It was really about, I hurt when I sleep, I hurt when I wake up, I want to fix this. And there isn't anything on the market that's doing that for me. So that was really a good process for us. And it's something that we'll continue to do as we work to continue refining and refining and refining who our target market is and who our target customer is. Anything to add to that?
No, I think you covered it.
John, are there any questions? We can move on.
Actually, we had a couple pop up here. This one just kind of off the sheet here. What is a business librarian? One person wanted to know, you said you were doing some research there. Out of one curiosity.
Yeah. So at the local libraries, you can actually make appointments with business librarians, and you can email them ahead of time and kind of tell them, here's what I'm trying to figure out, here's what I'm interested in learning about, and they will do all the research for you. And then you can go in and meet with them and they'll share that with you, and they have access to a lot more information than we do as the general public. So it's really helpful in figuring out your target market and just different market trends and things like that.
That's okay. We have another question. Can your brand proxy shift and change over time?
Yeah, I think absolutely your brand proxy can shift and change over time, and it should shift and change over time. One of the biggest things is that a brand proxy and the whole brand map is really just a jumping off point. And it should be a living document that you continue to change as you get more and more research into the market. So as you're talking to customers, you get to know them a little better. You say, okay, well, we thought it was this, but we were completely off. We're going in this opposite direction, and people are really gravitating towards it over here. So that becomes our new proxy. The whole brand map is really just to kind of get you started and get you pointed in a single direction, but that direction can change constantly.
Another question here from Ashley. It says, so your proxy doesn't necessarily mean the smallest marketing group. There's so much focus on niche marketing that I'm curious about how broad you keep the definition.
Yes, that of Ashley. Is that what you said?
Well, it was a different, oh, sorry, that's confusing.
from Ashley.
It's, yeah, from some, one of our viewers.
Yeah, so the brand
You
proxy
need to-
doesn't necessarily mean the smallest marketing group. A brand proxy is actually getting your target marketing down to a single individual that kind of embodies who you're targeting. So I'll use an example. I used to work for Colgate-Palmolive, and we would sell, soap and toothpaste and everything into Target. So I was working in Minneapolis with the Target team. I basically lived at their corporate headquarters, and they have a brand proxy that's just one individual, Tracy, and they know her by name and they treat her like she's an actual person. So if I would go in and say, oh no, we've got this great new toothpaste for you, they would say, the first question that they would ask themselves is, would Tracy like this? Tracy is our target market. We have it down to like that very small niche. And that's what's important, even for a huge brand like Target, they can get it all the way down to one person. And that really is your litmus test on, is this going to work? Is this really going to resonate with my crowd?
Okay. We do have one more question here. It's asking if you could expand a little more on the wants versus thorns.
Yeah, sure. Wants versus thorns. So thorns are really the pain points that someone goes into and that they need addressed. So for Lunara, for example, they really kind of mapped out this person's pain points. They need to be sleeping on their side. They need individual levels to be able to adjust to their exact neck angle. And there are a lot of pain points that Lunara started out that their marketing was really addressing. But what we ended up going more towards was the want, because this person didn't really know all of their individual pain points or necessarily care about that. They really wanted this healthy, restorative sleep experience. And so sometimes you can, answer every single thing and make this a perfect vehicle to solve all your customers' pain points. But that's not really what they want, what they're looking for. So wants generally kind of override pains when it comes to branding. All right, we are going to move. Oh, is that it?
No,
okay, great.
That's.
All right, so we're going to move on, and Andy's going to take us through True North.
Okay, the True North quadrant is where all the fun begins, because you really start getting into, of course, there are a lot of questions and discussions, but with True North, you really have to dig into the brainstorming. So what is a brand promise? And in the book, we outline 8 elements. I'm going to go over 3 essential elements. And this first one may seem trivial, but it's probably the most important thing. And that is, you have to have 7 words or less. And often a brand promise can be 1 word. The reason this is important is because for years and years, companies use something called a mission statement. And mission statements are really good for your business plan for banks. But in real marketing, real branding, they're kind of useless because, well, I do seminars and I always ask, who knows what their mission statement is? And generally, no one in the whole group can really do it by heart. So what company is the fastest moving companies in the United States? And there's several examples in the book. The fastest moving companies use a brand promise to keep everybody on track and going in the same direction. And that's one of the functions of brand promise. The second thing is that a way to kick it off, a brainstorming, is to say, you get this no matter what. Like our company delivers this to you, even if our building burns down or there's no question that we deliver this to you. The third thing is, what does you really come down to when you're brainstorming? What does your company really stand for? Now, that's pivotal because it helps you generate the rest of your brand. So, and we do have, I have a little hack that we use on developing the brand promise. And that is, just imagine that you're hitchhiking and you go along and you stop and you see a hitchhiker, and the hitchhiker walks up to the car, you roll down the window, and what's the first thing that you have to agree on? Now, John, our art director, doesn't like this metaphor because he says, well, the first thing I want to know is, are you going to murder me? But the most important, I'm saying, John, you don't agree on that issue. So what is the issue that you agree on? Is where the heck are you taking me? Where am I going? And that's, you might float out and you imagine, what's the oasis? What's the utopia? Where am I taking this client beyond my service? Maybe I could be of any occupation and I'm just performing the dentistry, the software function, but where am I really taking this client? And that's often leads you to where you separate from your competition. So I'll stop there, and maybe we can talk a little bit with the Lunara.
So it was a very interesting process working with Orbit. They had us read their book first, which blew our minds. It's an amazing book. Just brought up so many great things for us to think about as we read it. And after we read it, we were like, they're going to make us change our name. So we learned that our name was too long, too descriptive, not memorable. People didn't even know how to say it right. And we were so focused on our product and what it did that we really weren't thinking about, where are we taking the customer? What are we really trying to offer them? And so by going from a Just For Me to Lunara, we really kind of changed our focus from just this pillow to more of like a whole brand that our goal is really to help people sleep better. And so it was just such an interesting process and a much more effective way of thinking about our brand and our target market and really what our goal and our purpose was in our company.
Absolutely. The name is very important. And as a new business, we were not thinking that way. I mean, we weren't thinking this way at all. We were literally just thinking about our one product. So it was worth it to us to rebrand everything. We had to kind of start over, but we were early enough. And I know, Orbit, you said you've worked with much more established companies that have had to go through a rebrand, really, and it costs, right? It takes time and energy and money, but it's very worthwhile because you don't want to limit yourself for where your potential and where you're possibly headed.
Mm-hmm. And if you can get it right out of the gate and not have to circle back and redo a bunch of things, that's ideal.
Okay.
Real quick, we have a question. How did you think of the name Lenara?
So we spent a lot of time brainstorming. We spent a lot of time looking online, trying to see what other names were already out there, and most things are already taken. So we actually ended up thinking, let's create a name. And so it's actually a combination of my daughter, Lucy, her daughter, Nora, and the moon all pushed together. And we wanted it to be one word. We wanted it to make you think of sleep. We wanted it to be something kind of pretty. And so that was how we landed on Lunara.
Yeah, and memorable. I mean, obviously a one word brand is a lot more, well, and you'll learn a lot about this in the book, but they stick with us, right? Think of all the one word brand names that that are just household words. I will say that something to be very careful about is to really research the existence of the word in the market before you go with it. You want to look in Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest, and I mean, literally everywhere you can go, LinkedIn, Google. I would look in the TESS database, which is from the USPTO. Just leave no stone unturned, because once it's in the market, usually whether there's a TM next to it or not, it's already claimed, and you run then the risk of having someone come back to you later and take your name after you've done all the hard work to build your business around it.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move on to, actually, we've kind of covered it, but we'll move on to brand name. Now, in the book, you'll see there are 10 essential elements to a brand name, and I'm just going to give you 3 right now. The thing is that there are 2 types of names, and I'm sure you all know this. The one is suggestive, in other words, it implies what you do. And the second is fanciful. So a name like Google, when I first heard it, I said, what the heck? It's an interesting name. I actually found out that Google is suggestive and fanciful because Google is I believe it's the largest, it's a name for the largest number. And they certainly are in that area. Number 2 is, she said, Sarah said, one word. And yes, that's true. And you also have to look at the syllables, 1 to 3 syllables. So I kind of think it, again, it's that brevity and that memorable factor. It's a mnemonic game, a name. And it's actually, for most of our clients, it can be a very torturous process to guide them through. If you get beyond 4 syllables, it becomes expensive, an uphill battle to, communicate 4 syllables and make it memorable to people. Third thing is attach your brand name. Sometimes this helps. Attach your brand name to a visuals, because sometimes people can pull up in their minds a visual and then get to your word, get to your name. So that, a person, animal, or thing is often helpful in developing your name. As in Lunara implies a moon, you always think of that and you can get the name right away. I do have a hack on this one, and that's let your brand promise be your guide. That's one of the great things about establishing a solid brand promise. It helps you derive the elements of your marketing. Okay. Have we covered brand names? Are there any questions?
Quick question. Would you suggest to trademark the company name, the product name, or both?
Do you guys want to answer that, or I can answer
Well,
it?
from what we've learned from Orbit, you trademark everything that you can possibly trademark. So we've done that. We've trademarked the brand name, our slogan, our logo, all of that. And we've applied for the trademarks. We haven't received the registered mark yet, but hopefully we will be getting that soon.
Yeah, and also in our IP process, we also have we're patent pending. We've applied for a patent. We did eventually use attorneys to do that because it was bigger than what we could do. But registering for a trademark is something that we found we could do ourselves. We actually received a registered trademark for a Just For Me, and now we're just waiting for the other two, Level Up Your Sleep and Lunara. But it's very inexpensive to do on your own, and we felt like, why not? Also, some of the information we got when we were in classes at the USPTO, we took some free classes on intellectual property and how to really, go down this rabbit hole. And one of the things we learned is that if you're going to start selling in an international market, oftentimes those trademarks are beneficial. They're good to have. So that's our take on it. Orbit, do you have any specific thoughts on that?
No, I think we would agree, but you don't actually, even while you're in the process or even before you start the process, you could still put a TM on everything. You don't have to have gone through the entire registration process to put a TM. You just need to go through the process to put an R on there. So even before you start doing all that, definitely start putting TMs on, brand names, company names, everything.
I just like to make an aside here. Sarah and Ashley, one thing I noticed about them immediately as a client is they are, they're very smart and obviously articulate, but the thing that I liked about them is they are diggers. They really dig, and they do a lot on their own. And one thing that is important about being a digger is a lot of times you can save a lot of money and you can get a lot of knowledge yourself. And so I suggest that they have now it's over. It was yesterday, but they have a seminar that they do on taking I don't know exactly, taking your new product to market. And I suggest that you look that one up. You can still click on it. It was recorded, and it's just got a wealth of information for brand new companies. So I guess our next section is messaging, John.
Brand assets right now.
Yeah. We want to, with brand assets, this is very important. You want to, the first thing, there's probably an infinite number of brand assets. But the one I want to emphasize here is to establish a flagship. When we're just talking about the importance of names, oftentimes the name of your flagship surpasses the name of your company. And I'll just talk about that a little bit. What is a flagship? A lot of people ask me, well, it's the thing that you want your clients, your prospects, your customers, your anyone you work with to see first. It's what you want to put in front of people first. It's sure, it's about first impressions, but it's also about a lasting impression. So what does it consist of? And this may sound a little soft, but it's your brand magic. Anyone who's worked in business for a while, I mean, even if you make it to 2 years, I consider yourself, you have some kernel of genius or magic. Often seasoned companies, it's chemistry. It's something you worked on all these years, put it together, and it's really what's exciting about your company. So obviously, okay, Lunara's going to talk about, their wellness pillow. I mean, that's obviously, they put it in the context of your overall health, and that's what's really important as a flagship is that their pillow, actually their product becomes their flagship. So we believe that people go, like I just talked about, someone, their season, they go through 10 years and they have a masterful, unique approach, but they never name it. And we say, if you name it, you own it. If you name it, you own it. So often the flagship name, like I said, surpasses the company name. And we've had this happen repeatedly with our clients, where what they do, what they name their product, people don't even care when it comes time for them. Let's say they become acquired. The first thing when you get acquired, and the most value you have, of course, is your client base, right? But the second thing, we've had companies say, just keep your company name. We don't care about that. What we want to know is your flagship name. So it's very important to do that. So I'll turn it over to Linara on that subject. Flagship.
Let's see. What do you want to know about our flagship?
Well, I'd like to talk about Linara's flagship because they came up with a product, right? And so that was the name. Their company was the name of their pillow. And what happens is sometimes your product, you get a broader vision, which they obviously have done. They've gone to that next place, that oasis for their clients. And then they kind of reversed. We went back to the product, and the product is their flagship. It's a flagship for everything they do. It encapsulates their magic, their chemistry. Would that be accurate, or am I way off for you guys?
I think that's true. And also, I don't think there's any way for us to test our, I don't know what I would call it, but kind of like our success in the market without having a physical product, whether you're a service-based company, tech, or, or an actual physical product, you have to have something, right? That people can get their hands on and they're actually going to spend money on, right? So for us, that's been obviously the Lunara Wellness Pillow. I think it was obviously very intentional that we pulled our name into our flagship product. So we did toy around with keeping it the Adjust For Me pillow underneath Lunara, and it was like, no way, that doesn't make any sense. We wanted that continuity. And yeah, I mean, I can't imagine there will ever be a point in our business, even if we get to start licensing or doing it, that where this isn't still kind of the leader inside of our company. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I agree with that. I think, we're looking at add-on products down the road, but I still think this is going to be the flagship for our company. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
John, any questions? Okay, should we move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay. The next thing is intellectual property. And with intellectual property, there are hundreds of options. There's hundreds of things that you can own, produce, promote for your company. And so I'm just going to choose one, and that is a book. I don't care if you got a product or if you have a system or you have software. A book can be an ebook, establishes you as an authority in your field and a trusted advisor. There's no quicker way, and it's kind of amazing. the thing about a book, and I think Lunar is beginning their book, is that a book is a tangible and advisory thing that people can keep by their side when they're dealing with you. And I think it's so important. It can be just a guide and it can be a mini book. Now in books, I have 3 hacks. So I'm going to move on. And the first hack is, by the time, let's say you undertake a book, by the time you finish writing that book, you will be an authority in your field. Especially, like Lunara, diggers like these two are going to write a magnificent book on sleep, just sleep in general, and are going to be a recognized authority. And I expect to see them. Is there still an Oprah? No, but it's going to be that level. Second of all, this hack is that hire a writer. If you can't write, hire a writer. And a secondary hack to this hack is you can talk into a tape recorder and everyone has them on your smartphone. Just put your thoughts in there and then hire a writer to clean up all the ideas and organize all the ideas that you put into your phone. And the third hack is talk to the, my third hack is really take time and set aside time each day to put together an email that is valuable to your vertical. Okay, if you only do it once a month, if you put together a substantive email, after 12 months, you are going to have a mini book on your hands, and all you have to do is organize it and embellish it with your ideas and give it some continuity, and you have a mini book or a book to market with for the entire time of your business. And it's also just a nice thing to do for your clients, so they can refer back to your process or the attributes of your product. But like I said, there are hundreds of options for intellectual property.
All right. So if we don't have any more questions, we're going to move on to the 4th and final quadrant. So this is messaging and strategy. This area is actually where branding really meets sales, because it's the actual output of all the strategy up to this point. The first thing we start with is a salty soundbite, because everything we do in branding is trying to establish salt. Over-explaining is the #1 killer of sales. In branding, we salt people's interest. We give them a taste, and we make sure that they're thirsty for more. So that's the key to a great salty soundbite, and we'll get into what that looks like on the next slide with Nara. But the second thing we do is establish brand hammers. So these are the 3 messages that you'll hammer home in all your marketing and sales pieces. And when we first go through this with people, it sounds very repetitive, and it sounds like, okay, well, maybe this is going to get old for people. But to be honest, repetition is the soul of sales. And what most people don't realize, what most marketers don't realize, is that your customer has a lot to do. People don't pay nearly as much attention to what you're selling as you do. So just about the time you're getting sick of the 3 brand messages that you're hammering home every time, that's the time that potential customers are actually starting to pay attention. So that's why we go with the 3 brand hammers. And we're going to throw it over to Lunar, who's going to talk about their messaging a little bit and their salty soundbite.
Do you want to speak to this?
Sure. So as you can see, that is our salty soundbite. We had no idea what a salty soundbite was before we started working with Orbit. But, this is something that, like, Sarah has it taped up right here next to her computer. So it's something that we're constantly looking at and thinking about when we're creating messaging, when we're putting together anything that we want our customers to look at. So like Cody said, you know, we're not over explaining, but it's enough information that it gets people wondering, well, what does that mean? Tell me more about it. And so, yeah, I mean, it took us a while to come up with this, but we like where we landed on this one. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's really true. And for me personally, it's been helpful just because we are out in the community and we are talking to people about our company and our product. You know, people talk about having an elevator pitch. Well, even that is too long. It's too many words. So, and I have trouble with too many words. So, like I have too many. not that it bothers me. But, you know, so just to be able to say that, like, well, what do? We help people level up their wellness through healthy restorative sleep. And then absolutely that invites a conversation. So it's very valuable to have that. And like Ashley said, to be able to keep that kind of in the forefront of our mind when we're writing a blog, when we're posting social. And one thing I want to say about what Andy was saying when speaking about the book is that has made sense for us, not that we've fully implemented it yet, but blogs, obviously everyone has a blog, but you know, just take your 12 blogs and you were able to pull quite a bit of social media content from our blogs, and then also to tie all of our blogs together into a book. It's going to be very manageable when we have that much content and when we're able to do it, as opposed to trying to just get your coffee in the morning and sit down and start typing. It's just that becomes very overwhelming. And I just think from a personal stance, if you're somebody who is in a startup and you're kind of early on, just remembering that if you know 10% more than anyone else about your topic, you are an expert. So really getting that mindset that like, you know, because there's always that imposter syndrome of who am I to think blah, 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 right? But I just want you to know we're behind you.
So it looks like a question came in on the book. Does it have to be a physical book or can it be a PDF for customers to download? It definitely does not have to be a physical book. A lot of our clients use PDFs or even kind of PDF mini books. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 120-page book. It can be a 10-page mini book, little guide, something just to support and inspire your crowd. I will say, with one caveat, there is something to having a physical book. There's something just carries a little bit more weight. It's just a little bit more impressive. I mean, we do have a physical book, and you know, we sell it on Amazon, and we hand out the physical copy to people sometimes. And there's definitely a little bit more of a wow factor when they get the physical printed book versus when, you know, we send it over as a PDF. So PDF we use much more often because it's just so much easier and quicker. And these days people are just used to using PDF. So either way you can go is great.
Here's our amazing book from Orbit. And kind of speaking to what you said, Cody, I felt like this was super helpful for us to read before our first session with you, because it just gave us such a good background of where you were coming from, where you were going to take us, things that we needed to be thinking about. So, you know, if you're offering some kind of a service like this to your customer, to just help them get on the same page before you even meet with them is so valuable.
Yeah, for sure. And also you can take notes in it. So
Yeah,
there is a lot of value
in here
to the physical book. There is a session later this week at Denver Startup Week on publishing. Is it on self-publishing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you might check that out if you're interested.
Yeah, a great idea. Okay, we're starting to get towards the end here. Feel free to continue to jump in, and if you have any questions, I'd say one of the last things we really want to leave you with for branding is just do it. I mean, that's the main message of the day, is if you're thinking about starting your brand strategy, just get started. Like we have up here, 90% of marketing doesn't work because it doesn't get done. I mean, don't worry about messing up. We build brands every day and none of them are perfect. They're never perfect, but the thing you need to do is just get it out there. Once you do that, you can pivot and change as much as you need to, but nothing will work if you don't do it. So just put something out there and start learning if you really want your brand to take off. And also, if you do want a copy, an electronic copy of the book, we can send that to you. So just send an email to info@orbitdesign. We can type that into the comments for you.
Yeah, I'll post up a link here in the chat as well.
Yeah, John is going to post the link up in the chat if you all want that. And we also are super excited about Lunara being pitch competition finalist this year. So it's Wednesday the 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the pavilion. Hopefully everyone can be there and we're super excited to cheer them on. All right, if anyone has any last questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A. Otherwise, we really appreciate you all being here and feel free to reach out to us anytime. So this is our contact info. You can go to our website or email us and we'd love to chat just about branding or the Lunara brand or anything that anyone wants to discuss. All right. Thank you everyone so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Let's see.
Yeah.
I have a question here.
Oh, okay.
Real quick. When Lunara worked with Orbit, how many names and brand promises options did Orbit give them or choose from?
Oh, we spent hours and hours and hours in calls and coming back and doing some work on our own. Then we would meet again. So it wasn't so much that Orbit presented them specifically to us. It was that we collaborated and just they asked us all the right questions to get us thinking and pushed us to get there. Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a pretty organic process. Lots of brainstorming, lots of putting out ideas, taking out ones we didn't like, narrowing it down. So yeah, it was definitely a fun process to do with them.
In case you can't tell, we really love our branding company.
Yes, we do.
All right, John, did any other questions come through?
I'm not seeing any other right now.
All right, thanks so much, everyone. We really appreciate it. All right, have a great week. Yeah, thank you.